Thank you very much. Good morning. I just heard that France is pivot between the North and the South. So from time to time, when I'm optimistic, I say that we have the qualities of the North and the South. But more often, I say that we have the shortcomings of the North and the South in Europe. Thank you very much. I am not responsible of the title of this conference. Really, even as you know, really, I remind you the French modesty. I've certainly not. I've never referred to the French leadership. It's that's a sort of thing that I think silently. I don't say it publicly. On the 14th of July, I was just preparing to join the 2,000 French guest at the French embassy for the National Day when I learned the attacks in Nice, and which changed dramatically the significance of our meeting. And you have heard also of the appalling killing of a priest in the church while he was celebrating the Holy Mass. So it's a very, very dark moment for my country. And it's obviously the biggest threat that France has been facing, I think, since 1945. It's a threat against our security, but it's also a threat against our values, the social fabric of our country. Actually, there is a lot of questions saying, in a sense, why France? And you can have a lot of different answers. First, France was a colonial power in the Arab world, and for a lot of people in North Africa, for instance, but also in Syria and Lebanon, where we were the colonial powers, France is the symbol of the West, of the Western value, in a sense, the same way that the US is. Also, you have, obviously, the problem of immigration. We have the first Muslim community in Europe, and most of these Muslims are from Arab origin, which means they are more sensitive to the propaganda coming from the ISIS, more sensitive that, for instance, the Turkish immigrants in Germany or the Indians, Bangladeshi, Pakistani immigrants in the UK. So it's, and last point, it's also because France has had a very active foreign policy and has been fighting for a few years now, has been fighting the jihadists, fighting them in Mali, as you know, and we have still between 3,000 and 4,000 soldiers in northern Africa, Mali, Niger, and on the southern border of Libya, fighting the terrorists in this part of the world. And we have been the first one to join the Americans in striking ISIL in Iraq and in Iraq and Syria and in Iraq. So we are doing, and we are, after the last attacks, the French president has announced that we are going to intensify our participation in the operations against the terrorists. We are sending an aircraft carrier group to the region, and we have been intensifying the strikes against the terrorists, especially around Raqqa in Syria. We are working very closely with our allies, and especially with our American allies. In Northern Africa, the Americans are providing logistical and intelligence support, and we have a very close intelligence cooperation against terrorism. On the EU side, as you may know, we have activated an article. We have, for the first time, an article of the treaty, which is, I guess, if I'm not wrong, 42.6. Article which the EU partners will provide political and military support to our country. And one example was the fact that Germany is sending military elements to Mali to try to help us. So that's the major threat, and of course it has consequences in our political, French political debate, and I will come back to this question of the political debate, because I do think that this question is a wider question which is going well beyond the borders of France, as we have seen, as we are seeing in your country, and as we have been seeing also in Britain with Brexit. The second challenge, which is a more long-term challenge, of course, is the future of the European Union, and especially after Brexit. Brexit for us has a lot of consequences. First, we are not going to punish the United Kingdom. You know, really, it doesn't make any sense. Of course, after the vote, there were moments of anger, of resentment, but when the dust settles, the reality will be that we need to maintain a close and friendly relationship with the United Kingdom. As you may know, we have an extremely close relationship on a military basis. There is a special treaty, the Lancaster House Treaty, which is really the stepping stone of our military cooperation. But in political terms and in economic terms, financial terms, we do need, and it's also our mutual interest to keep a close relationship with the United Kingdom. At the same time, of course, the negotiation for Brexit must respect the interest of all parties involved, and especially with regard of the European single market and its four freedoms. As you know, the single market, you have the four freedoms: freedom of circulation of goods, capitals, services, and persons. You know, really, the four are integral part of the single market. You can't have the cake and eat it. I'm sure that the British, as good diplomats, and are very good diplomats, we try to have the cake and eat it, but the answer at the beginning of the negotiation is no way. So that's the first. And I want simply to emphasize the negotiation, you know, really in a sense. Very quickly, the European Union has a specific genius, which is to drown any political issues into endless and technicalities that nobody is able to understand. So I'm ready to really swear that in 6 months, nobody will know whether the British are in the EU or not in the EU. It will be a sort of incredible negotiation on the imports of washing machine, and you know, really it's. Actually, I've been negotiating on the washing machines in in the single market. You know, there was a real existential debate because the French are opening their washing machine by the top, and the Germans on the really. And the question was, what will be allowed? We negotiated 18 months on that, and at the end of this negotiation, we decided that both ways were acceptable. Really. So I guess that it will be also a very technical negotiation, but with vital interest at stake. And so this negotiation may at any moment become acrimonious. We don't want it, but it may, because really vital interests are at stake, especially for the United Kingdom in terms of access to the single market. And of course, the question that we have beyond the British case is the future of the European Union, and with the risk of disintegration, of unraveling of the European Union, especially in a period where you have electoral processes, not only in France, May 2017, but also in Germany in October 2017. So it means that the European Union topic will be at the core of our electoral campaign. And it will be at the core, and I'm going to the populist outburst that we are facing in all the Western democracies. All the Western democracies, from the US to UK with Brexit, but also to France, to the Netherlands, to Scandinavia, to Italy. You have seen that with the election of the new mayor of Rome. We are facing the same outburst of populism. Here, this outburst has 4 targets. On the right, Washington, D.C., more or less, and the elites. On the left, Wall Street. In Europe, the main target, in a sense, is the European Union. So the European Union will be really at the core of the political debates in our country. Usually, you know, the European Union has gone from a crisis to another crisis for the last 60 years. And usually at any moment when there was a crisis, the way of overcoming it was to say more Europe. But the problem in this populist atmospherics is that it's very difficult, in a sense, to campaign about the idea of more Europe. So the first signals that we have heard coming from Germany, from France and Germany, was more that we are going, our political authorities on both sides of the Rhine are going to campaign on, in a sense, better Europe, in the sense of a European Union which could be easier to understand or easier to the Europeans, to the concerns of the Europeans. So I think that we will have to campaign on the issues like protection of the environment, protection of the populations from the various threats, and especially, as I've said, terrorism and economic prosperity. And here we are facing also, we are bumping into another reality, is that the 2008 crisis has been very painful in the US, but also in Europe, and we are just coming out of it. We are just coming out of it, and that's the case of France after the reforms decided by my government. But still, there is a very high level of unemployment in some European countries, we have to convince in this prospect that the European Union actually is contributing to the prosperity and is not limited to a sort of austerity straitjacket. Why the European Union project can be improved and can be easier to understand by the European citizens, I think we have to be proud of its achievements and successes. You know, really, it's very symbolic, but you know, the Erasmus student exchange program has allowed dozens of thousands of students, of European students, to study in a foreign country. The single market is there. The European Union is the first trading power in the world, is by far the largest donor of development aid. The European Union development aid, it's 60% of the world development aid. It's also an area of democracy, of justice, of freedom. I think one of the main successes of the European Union has been simply the integration of our Eastern partners. You know, you have to remember where our Eastern partners were. You know, not so far. You know, it's not so far away. You know, it was in 1990. And, you know, really with communist centralized economies, really much poorer than the Western European countries. And we have helped them, of course, the first success, they are responsible of their own success. But the European Union, you know, really has supported them at a very high cost. You know, really hundreds, I guess the global figure is around $230 billion have been transferred from Western Europe to our Eastern European partners. I think that's quite a success. We have decided, and I think, in a sense, that will be an argument that we present to our electors, to create an European Coast Guard force and an European border force to respond to the challenges, the security challenges, and of course, this European Union has been certainly the best, in a sense, the most solid and the most consistent ally and partner of the United States. And one of the results of this partnership has been the success of the COP21, in Paris for fighting climate change. And this cooperation will remain totally critical for the future. So at the end of the day, because of the geography of the European continent, in a sense, the challenges may appear and are actually more acute in Europe, certainly in Europe, that they are in the United States. But going back to this populist challenge, I do think that we have to answer to the same questions which are raised by our citizens and are raised the same way in the US Midwest and in the French countryside, which is, you know, I was reading the Financial Times on Friday, and there was, I think, a column by Martin Wolf, which was giving the proportion in our countries of the households, the income of which has stagnated or fallen since 2005. In Italy, it's more than 90%. But in the US and in France, it's more than 50%, which means that between 5 and 16, more than half of the French and the Americans have seen their income falling or stagnating, you know, really. And again, I was joking before entering, saying that I'm going to come out of my Marxist closet. But, you know, really, the real question is there. You know, it's a question of economics. Jobs, 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 idiot. You know, really, the fact is that a large part of our citizens in America, in Europe, have suffered from the globalization. We are facing the rebellion against globalization. Globalization has been very good for the poor in the third world and for the rich in the first world. But the problem is, of course, that that democracy is based on the prosperity, the well-being, the optimism of the middle class. So I guess that beyond all the crises that we have been facing, that we are facing, and that we are facing together, actually, there will be one crisis that I don't know who will be the next president of the United States, but when she's elected, I think it will be very important. I think it will be very important that really, in a sense, she will work with the Europeans, but also the Japanese partners, to say, how are we going to respond to the anger of our citizens? Thank you very much.